Hi doctor, good afternoon. Today I will actually presenting is the introduction to our topic, which is ABC versus traditional costing. First of all, my name is Vashan son of Bhaskar Rao, and my matrix number is 310755. In this section, I will explain what is cost, what traditional cost means, the problem with traditional costing, and why equity-based costing or ABC was introduced. So first of all, we're going to see about introduction to the costing. So what is costing? Is just what is costing? So you're going to see first. Let's understand what costing means. So costing is a process to identifying, measuring, and assigning cost to product or services. So just in a simple word, doctor, costing help a business know how much money it spent to produce a product or provide a service. For an example, if a company produces a table, they need to calculate the cost of wood, labor, electricity, and other factory expenses. And apart from that, we're going to say what is costing important. So costing is important. I'm giving a 4 points of here. Okay, costing becomes help business to make a better decision. First of all, second, when know the actual cost of production, they can set proceed selling prices and control unnecessary expenses. Costing also help companies measure profitable and evaluate whether a product is generating profit or loss. In addition, costing support planning and budgeting because manager can estimate future costs more accurately. So in my point, there's a key message from this again. Therefore, costing is not only about calculating costs, but also helping business achieve their financial goals. So it's very important to us. So the second segment, why do company needs a costing system? So it's a common is the purpose is company need a costing system because it's provide reliable information about production costs and business performance. So why company need it? Determine accurate. This is a proper costing system means to determine product costs accurately and identify area where the cost can be reduced. It's also improve operation effective and support strategic decision making. Without a costing system, business may rely on inaccurate information, which can lead to poor pricing decision and lower profitable. So in today's competitive business environment, reliable costing system is very important for long-term success. Okay, now you're going to see about the traditional costings. So what is traditional costing? Traditional costing is one of the oldest costing method is traditional costing. So traditional costing allocate overhead costs using only cost types such as labor, hours of machine hours. So why was this popular? So it's a method was useful in the past because business had similar production process and the most of cost came from the labor. Okay. So the session was easy to understand, easy to use, and does not require a lot of timing or money implement. Because these are the advantage, maybe this is method of many years. So because of this, many years of the traditional costing. So apart from that, even though traditional costing is the oldest one, we have limitation of the traditional costing. Major problems we are currently facing now is using only a one cost driver, made use of product costs, less accurate overhead allocation can lead to poor pricing decisions. So modern business challenges because in the modern world everyone is using the modern calculation costings, so it's mainly difficult for increasing autonomies, multiple product lines, higher indicate costs, more complex operations. As a result, manager may take wrong decision without pricing of profitable, is make them to lose their amount. Apart from that, why equity based costing, that is ABC, merged? So the purpose, because of this problem, ABC costing was developed. ABC was worked differently because it focused on activity that actually create costs. So example of activities. Example of this activity include machines, setup, quality inspection, material handling, and order processings. APK allocate cost based on how much each product use the activities. This make the costing information more accurate and help manager better make business decision. So this is why ABC become more popular, especially in larger and more complex organization. So the critical, after the reading the points, so the critical review in my script, doctor. After reading the article, I think ABC is the general better for modern business because it provides more accurate closing information. However, ABC is not perfect. It takes more times and money to implement compared to the traditional costing. In my opinion, largest company with many production can benefit from ABC, but they need more accurate and cost information and must be very spend a lot of money. But small business like having a stationery shop or food business or mini market with simple operation, traditional cost will be the good option because easy and cheaper to use them. So the easy can track their costs and even if they're profitable or not. Okay, doctor, going to the conclusion. Okay. To conclude, costing is important because it helps business to understand the cost and make a better decision. Traditional costing is simple and easy to use, but it may have little accurate in today's business environment because the technologies increase so many. So because of this, ABC was introduced to provide more accurate costs, allocating based on activities. Both methods have their own advantage and disadvantage, and business should choose one of the best suite they needed. How including their budgets, and that's it. To article and link over down. So doctor, thank you.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day to our lecturer and my fellow classmates. I am Sophia. Following version's introduction, I will be explaining the mechanics of traditional costing, specifically of looking at how this architecture attempts to assign costs in a manufacturing environment. Every costing system faces a core challenge. As you can see here, direct costs like raw materials and direct labor are easy to trace straight into a product. However, indirect factory overheads like rent, supervisor, salaries, and utilities create a tangled maze. Traditional costing is a simply an older accounting method designed to solve this exact allocation problem. The traditional system solved this by relying entirely on a volume-based assumption. Imagine a giant funnel. All manufacturing overhead goes into one pool and drips down onto the products based purely on production volume. This internal logic is simple. If product A takes as twice as many labor hours to make as product B, it automatically absorbs twice the overhead. To untangle this overhead, traditional costing generally uses one of the two architectural approaches, the plant-wide rate or the departmental rate. Let's look at how each method works and eventually where their internal logic breaks down. The simplest method is the plant-wide blanket rate. Here, all total estimate overhead is dumped into one bucket and is divided by a single estimate base like direct labor hours. For the entire facility, it's very easy to calculate, but it ignores the reality that different products consume factory resources in vastly different ways. A slightly better method is the departmental two-stage flow. This acknowledges that different departments operate differently. For example, a machining department might use machine hours as its cost driver, while the assembly department uses manual direct labor hours. This provides a slightly more granular view than a single plant-wide blanket rate. When we compare them, the single-stage plant-wide rate has very low system complexity, making it ideal for factories with uniform processes. The departmental rate is moderately complex but better for varied operations. Because they are so simple, many local companies right here in Malaysia still use them today. However, as you can see at the bottom, both still rely heavily on volumetrics, which leave their accuracy highly distorted in complex setup. To conclude our critical review of traditional costing architecture, we must evaluate them through a balanced lens. First, the clear advantage here is operational simplicity. For many local manufacturing setups right here in Malaysia, a plant-wide or departmental rate requires minimal administrative costs and uses easily accessible and accounting data. If a factory produces highly uniform, single-line products, the system remains entirely functional. However, the critical flaw lies in its strategic relevance. In an environment where overhead dominates production costs, treating indirect expenses as a massive, uniform funnel creates a severe illusion of accuracy. By relying strictly on volume metrics, the system overcosts simple products and dangerously undercosts and complex ones. Ultimately, traditional costing is highly effective for basic financial reporting and inventory valuations, but it fails as a tool for precise product pricing or cost control. In an increasing automated marketplace, relying blindly on volume to dictate overhead allocation leaves managers making crucial choices based on distorted data. With these structural limitations of traditional costing established, I will now pass the floor to Biha to introduce how we can break free from value metrics and transitions to a more precise methodology. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Nur Arshabiha binti Muhammad Nur. My matrix number is 310781.
Today, I want to present about key difference between activity-based costing and traditional costing. So, for the background, the study was conducted because traditional costing systems have become less effective in modern business environment. Traditional costing methods were developed when dry labor and raw materials represented the largest portion of production cost. However, due to technological advancement, automation, globalization, and increased competition, indirect costs have become more significant. As a result, traditional costing systems often allocate overhead costs inaccurate. Costing ABC was introduced as a costing method that allocates cost based on activities and cost drivers. So the objective for this journal article is to analyze international scientific publication related to activity-based costing ABC over recent years. And second, to analyze the difference between activity-based costing and traditional costing. Third, to identify trends in ABC research, development, and evolution. Fourth, to detect future research opportunities in ABC literature. Five, to perform a bibliometry analysis using large database, which is Web of Science and Scopus. And lastly, to understand how ABC research connects with management innovation and open innovation concept. So the difference between ABC and traditional costing or ABC-based costing focus on activities that consume resources. Second, allocates cost based on cost drivers, which is cost-effect relationship. More accurate because traces indirect cost property, reflects real resource usage, and lastly, better for complex high overhead environment. So for traditional costing, it is heavily on direct labor and simple allocation based. Allocates overhead costs arbitrarily, arbitrarily, arbitrarily. Hmm. The difference between ABC and traditional costing or activity-based costing is focused on activities that consume resources. Second, allocates cost based on cost drivers, which is cost effect relationship, and more accurate because traces indirect cost properly and also reflects real resource usage. Lastly, better for complex, high overhead environment. And for traditional costing, relies heavily on direct labor and simple allocation basis. Allocate overhead costs arbitrarily and developed when production was simple and indirect costs were low. Lastly, become inadequate in modern industry. So this is activities-based costing. This is the formula and this is how the activity-based costing. And this is traditional costing. You can look at this table. So for literature review, the literature review in the study indicates that traditional costing systems have become less effective in today's business environment. This is mainly due to factors such as automation, technological advancement, and the increases proportion of indirect costs in organization operation. Activity-based costing (ABC) was introduced as a more reliable costing approach that assigns costs based on the activities that consume resources. For research method, in this journal article, the researcher used a bibliometry analysis, which is approach to study the existing literature on activity-based costing (ABC). The data he or she will gather from the Web of Science and Scopus database, resulting in a total of 1,419 publications being included in the analysis. So, use of NDC in traditional costing. Activity-based costing, NDC, presented as an improved alternative, more relevant in modern industry. Let's focus on the entire bibliometric study. And for traditional costing, used as a baseline system, criticized for arbitrarity, overhead allocation, and lack of accuracy in modern business. So lastly, for the result, the final revealed that activity-based costing (ABC) has attracted significant attention from researchers across a wide range of industries and countries. The study also highlights a strong level of collaboration among researchers and academic institutions, which has helped expand and strengthen the body of knowledge on ABC. Overall, the results suggest that LBC continues to be an important ingredient in management accounting, particularly as organizations seek more effective cost management system and support for innovation in today's competitive business environment. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Today I will explain the advantages and disadvantages of both methods. Let's start with activity-based costing or ABC method. Firstly, ABC is more accurate because it tracks costs based on actual activity. Second, it uses multiple cost drivers, making it very precise for complex businesses. Because the cost is more accurate, so management can make better pricing decisions. So also ABC is so flexible because it can create custom internal reports. It helps it cost control by showing which activity wastes money. Lastly, it gives a full picture because it includes both manufacturing and selling costs. However, everything has advantages and disadvantages. So for ABC, it is too complex because there are too many things to track. Second, it will be so expensive and very slow to maintain. Lastly, it also can be a waste of time for a simple businesses that only make one identical product. Now, let's look at the second method, which is traditional costing. The best part is traditional costing is very simple because it uses only one measure, like labor hours. It is very cheap to run and save a lot of time. It is good for simple operation with standard product. Finally, it is easy for financial report because it follow the rules or follow the standard accounting rules. But these disadvantages of traditional costing is wrong cost allocation. It is oversimplified things which lead to unfair costing where the high volume product look too expensive and low volume product look too cheap. This is bad for pricing and can hurt company profit. Lastly, it ignores non-manufacturing costs like selling and admin expenses. In conclusion, there is no single perfect system. Traditional costing is great if a company wants something simple, fast, and cheap. But if a company has complex operation and needs highly accurate data to survive in the market, then ABC is definitely the better choice despite its high cost. So to see how these theories work in a real business scenario, I will now pass the floor to the next presenter. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I'm Esther Chujashan, metric number 310811. For my part, I will discuss about the case study, real-world applications, critical evaluation, and conclusion for the activity-based costing, also as known as ABC, compared with the traditional costing. To better understand the difference between these two costing systems, I will first discuss an academic case study conducted in Malaysian fabrication company. This study is important because it compares traditional costing and ABC in the real manufacturing environment and show how different costing systems can affect product costing accuracy. The company involved in the study produced tanker and industrial vehicle components. Initially, the company used the traditional costing system to allocate overhead costs based mainly on direct labor hours. Although this method is simple and easy to apply, researchers found that it creates several costing problems. This is because different products consume resources differently during the production process. Means some products required more machine setup activities, inspections, and material handling compared to others. However, under the traditional costing system, overhead costs were allocated using only one allocation space. As a result, the product costs become insorted. This happened because the traditional costing system failed to reflect the actual resources consumed by different products. After implementing ABC, the company identified several important production activities such as machine setup, inspection, and material handling. The overhead costs were then allocated using cost drivers based on the actual activity usage. Compared to traditional costing, ABC provides more details and accurate costing informations. This is important because inaccurate product costing can negatively affect business decisions. For examples, when a product is overcost, the company might set the selling price too high and becomes less competitive in the market. On the other hand, when a product is under cost, the company might sell the products below the actual production cost, which can reduce the profitability. Therefore, the actual cost calculation is extremely important for price strategy, budgeting, and also profitability analysis. Based on the finding of this academic case study, ABC appears to be more suitable for complex manufacturing environments when products consume resources differently. Besides that academic case study, ABC can also be applied in a real Malaysian company such as Hadaliga Holdings Berhad. Hadaliga is one of the largest glove manufacturers in Malaysia and operates in a highly automated manufacturing environment. The company produces many different types of gloves, and each product might require different level of machine setup, inspections, packaging, and distributions activities. Because of the complexity, relying only on traditional costing might produce inaccurate product costing information. For example, simple products might become overcost, while more complex products might become undercost. Therefore, ABC can help companies like Hadaligans calculate overhead costs more accurate according to actual activity performed during production. However, despite the advantage of ABC, there were also several limitations that companies should consider. Firstly, implementing ABC can be expensive because companies need to collect detailed data for every activities and maintain a more complicated costing system. Secondly, the implementations process might require employees, trainings, and additional times for data analysis. In conclusion, both traditional costing and activity-based costing have their own strength and weakness. Traditional costing is simple, less expensive, and easier to implement, but also it might produce inaccurate product costing in complex manufacturing environments. On the other hand, ABC produces more accurate and detailed costing information because it calculates overhead costs according to actual activities and resources consumptions. Although ABC improves decision making and profitability analysis, company must also consider the implementation's cost, time, and complexity before adopt the system. Therefore, the effectiveness of a costing system unlimited depends of the nature and needs of the organizations. That's all from our group. Thank you.